Step on the court where the legends are made. Fantasy dreams where the stats get paid. Barack Lesnar's throne.
Barack Lesnar Hoops Fantasy Basketball.
Hey, this is Barack Lesnar of Barack Lesnar Hoops, and I am trying a live stream. I typically don't do live streams, but I figured, why not? I worked on a resource for you today that I want to share, and I don't know that I would get it to you in time if I don't go this route. Before we get started, and I know there's probably no one here, do me a favor, smash that button for me and subscribe to Barack Lesnar Hoops if you have not yet. All right, so I'm going to get to this resource that I've put together. All right, so this is the Barack Lesnar Hoops Nightly Breakdown, and this is powered by sportswizard.com. The tools for SportsWizard are incredible. One of the tools that you can use for it is the ability to see what your matchup looks like against your opponent for that week. As a matter of fact, I think I want to show you what that looks like. So we're going to go to my leagues. We're going to go to one of my leagues right here. Skinny Lucas Season is my team. And you can see here what the matchup looks like for the remainder of the week, at least what it's projected to look. This tool has been invaluable. It's something I've been using for years. As a matter of fact, I got connected with this tool because I was using it long before I knew the person that created it. And then when I met the person that created it, I ended up doing a partnership because I love the tool so much. So when I promote this, I'm not promoting it because someone's paying me. It's a sponsorship now, but at the time it was not. This is just the tool I would recommend to everyone because here I can see, for example, that I'm losing free throw percentage by just a little bit. So I'm right now projected to tie against my opponent. I'm also projected to lose steals by a little bit, but only win blocks by a little. Though I'm pretty confident that threes, I'm great there. Assist to turnover ratio, I'm sitting pretty. Even though the assist to turnover ratio projections tend to be a little wonky, I do trust it projecting me to win. As you can see here, there's a mass difference between his 1.56 and my 2.61. So I can make some changes if I want to win this week. And now I know, hey, I need to address my steals. I need to address maybe my points. I'm projected to barely lose points, but something to consider. I think it has Luka playing 0 games for me because he is in my IL. So I would probably drop somebody. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, I dropped Brook Lopez in his 2 games and I instead projected Luka playing those 2 games. Now that projection has me winning 7-3. So now I know that's a move I need to make. I'm waiting for hopefully somebody to get that out criteria or that game time decision criteria so I can just swap in Luka and not have to drop anyone. That's why I keep telling you about this tool. If you don't have this tool, you have no idea what you're missing out on. And one of the other things this tool does that I absolutely love. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to research transaction trends. This is one of the biggest tools I use. Diamond player trends. You only get this if you pay for Yahoo Plus, which I do pay for. We're going to go here to all players and diamond player trends. This is how I figure out exactly who the top ads are. But a bonus that I get with the fantasy basketball wizard is it actually shows me how many games they have remaining. So you can see here, Isaiah Stewart is the top pickup right now across diamond tier leagues with 980 ads in diamond tier leagues or by diamond tier players. And the wizard has him projected for 2 games remaining this week. So you could quickly realize, hey, I'm gonna pick up Isaiah Stewart because he still has 2 games. Same with Ryan Dunn, same with Ben Sheppard. Now there's some guys that only have 1 game left, and maybe you only have 1 pickup left. Maybe Aaron Gordon. I mean, Aaron Gordon's not going to be heavily available. Actually, surprisingly, in diamond tier leagues, he's only rostered, looks like 31% of the time. And in regular leagues, he's only rostered 46% of the time. That's actually really surprising to me that he's rostered so low. We'll be discussing the game he had in a second, but I really wanted to take the time to explain to you the fantasy basketball wizard, why it brings value to you right away. And then some other features of the wizard that they just added this season. There's an auto ad feature where you go to the Sports Wizard website and you can actually grab a player off of the waiver wire with this auto ad feature, and you don't have to wake up. You don't have to set an alarm. You can still grab that guy you really want when you've used up all your picks and you've waited till Monday at 3 a.m. I've done that plenty of times and it has impacted my sleep significantly, but that's what I do to be competitive with the fantasy basketball wizard. You don't have to do that anymore. So a lot of top pickups right now. I actually am going to go over yesterday's games, and from that, we are going to glean a lot of insight, including the game that Aaron Gordon had. Actually, have some people here, man. Do me a favor if you're on the stream right now, leave me a comment. Ask any questions that you have. I'll check in with the chat on occasion. We're going to have some fun. And let me know, should I do more live streams? I normally don't do live streams. I edit my videos and release them. But this is a lot less overhead. It's a lot easier for me to get the information out to you, and I would like to do it more. Are we grabbing Ben Sheppard? Oh, man, keep watching, man. I think you're going to like what I have prepared for you. All right, we're going to go back to my resource that I put together. Should be it right here. Yes, it's right here. So here's the breakdown. And before I go into the breakdown, I do want to explain exactly how my benchmarks work. We're going to see this right here and why I put these benchmarks together. So the main reason I put these benchmarks together is really simple. Someone made a comment that really got to me. I would explain my system, but in kind of general terms, and they made a post and they said, I really don't know what players to grab, where I should grab them. I like your advice, but they just were confused as to how to implement it. And then I went and looked back at my channel to see if I've ever really broken down my system on a granular level. And I realized I have never done that. I was shocked. I thought I had at some point. I've covered a lot of different topics, but I've never really put everything down to like science. So I decided to come up with benchmarks of what an ideal 9-category player is. What I mean by that is this would be the perfect 9-category player. What would their stats look like? And here are the benchmarks that I came up with. So they would have, if they're a guard, a field goal percentage of at least 47%. See, this has it all mixed up. So for a guard, it would be field goal percentage of at least 45%. For a big, it would be at least 47%. Free throw percentage of at least 82% for both of them. Now, for a guard, I want them to give me more than 2.5 threes or at least 2.5 threes. I want them to score 21 points per game. Same for bigs. Rebounds, I want guards to get me at least 4.5, at least 5 assists, at least 1.5 steals, and at least 1 block per game. Those are the ideal benchmarks. No guy on your waiver wire is going to have this. No player in the NBA has this. But we're trying to see how close they get in the different categories to identify who we want to build around. Now, as far as stocks, if they get you 1 steal and 1 block, then they meet the stocks qualification. So that's a situation where a guy gets you 4 blocks and 0 steals. I don't count that as 4 stocks. That's just 4 blocks. So I want to reward players who are able to get you both steals and blocks. Assist to turnover ratio, I want them to have an assist to turnover ratio of at least 2 assists. So there has to be some volume behind it. There also has to be volume behind the field goal percentage. They need at least 7 field goal attempts, and they need at least 3 free throw attempts. That way we can remove some noise and some of the bearing. Now, I decided to do something I haven't done yet. I thought to myself, what if I looked up all of the stats for all of the all NBA players from last season, all of the all defensive players for last season, and all of the all-star players for last season, and then averaged out what their benchmarks would be compared to the benchmarks that I came up with. And I'm about to reveal that to you right now. So here's those benchmarks right here. Field goal percentage for the elite players in the NBA, the groups I just told you, 50.2%. For guards, I have 45%. For bigs, I have 47%. So we're pretty close there. For free throw percentage, the average is 78.3. For my system, we have it at 82%, but that's because I really value free throw percentage. So that's fine with me. We're still pretty close. We're within range. For 3-pointers made, 1.8 is the average. For me, guards is 2.5, and for bigs is 1. So that average between both is actually getting really close. If you average both out, you're looking at 1.7 versus 1.8 for the elite. Points, 21.3, right on the sweet spot with my benchmark of 21. Now, for rebounding, the average is 7. With my system, it's a little lower. I have guards at 4.5, and I have elite bigs at 7.5, but that's because I value unicorn players. So that one is still a little lower than it would be if we average them out, but not by much. For assists, the elite players in the NBA average 4.8. My system lets guards get 5 and lets bigs get 4.5. So again, we're getting precision as far as that benchmark. For steals, the average for those elite players is 1.3. For me, right now, it's 1 for guards and it's 1.2 for bigs. For blocks, average is 1, which is very close as well. We have 1 for guards and 1.5 for bigs. For stocks, steals and blocks, the average is 2.3. For the best players, and the assist to turnover ratio is 1.8. For my system, stocks is 2. And assist to turnover ratio is 2. So when I'm telling you that my benchmarks are supposed to give you the ideal NBA player, we just took the very top NBA offensive players and defensive players. And that average, those benchmarks came within a hair of the benchmarks that I was running. And my benchmarks were based on instinct. So to come that close was shocking to me, even though I was not surprised. All right. So now that we understand the benchmarks, let's discuss the players. So the top performances last night and the way this system works. So I take all of the players that played the previous night and they have to meet my benchmark criteria. That's how I filter out noise. That's how I filter out flashes in the pan. That's how I give you the very best players with scientific precision. So the top player last night was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No shock there. Played 45 minutes. That game went into double overtime again. Those Thunder players have to be exhausted. So he got you 55 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists, which is more than 35 combined. That gives him the superstar badge. He led the way there. Now, as far as benchmarks met, he met 8 of the 10 benchmarks. He also met, and I want to make sure I explain this, my efficiency gates. So any player that appeared, I need them to hit 2 of the 6 pillars, which means they're either hitting the steals benchmark, the blocks benchmark, the field goal percentage benchmark, the free throw percentage benchmark, or they're getting you at least 2 stocks per game with a minimum steal, minimum 1 block, and they're also meeting my assist to turnover ratio of at least 2 with at least 2 assists. That's how I'm able to filter out the players that don't really fit my build. And based on that, Shai was number 1, followed by Steph Curry, who also had an amazing performance. He was cooking with gas. He hit a perfect 8 out of his 8 free throw attempts. He met 10 of the 10 benchmarks with this game. So all of the benchmarks were met by Steph Curry. He met all 6 of the efficiency gates. So even though his points, rebounds, and assists were less than Shai's, he had a more well-rounded game. So If you drafted Steph Curry, I know he was going in the teens in most leagues that I saw. You love to see that from him. Hopefully he can stay healthy and he might end up being a first-round player. Aaron Gordon, we mentioned him earlier today, had a 50-point game. I don't know if anyone saw that coming. He had a combined 60 points, rebounds, and assists. He met 5 of the 10 benchmarks. He did hit 2 of our efficiency gates, and those efficiency gates are the big 5 categories I tell you I value: field goal percentage, free throw percentage, steals, blocks, assist to turnover ratio, and stocks. Because again, I like players that can get me both. So Aaron Gordon, incredible performance from him. Like we talked about earlier, he's widely available right now on waiver wire. So you might want to go look on your waiver wire and see if somebody didn't realize he had that sort of game. Somebody else that had a very strong performance is Pascal Siakam. 32 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, a combined 51 points, rebounds, and assists. He met 5 of the 10 benchmarks with points, rebounds. And by the way, if you see a category in green, that means they met that specific benchmark. I try to make this as visually easy to follow as possible. An interesting observation I made: the centers on the Pacers barely played. Even though they went into double overtime, Jay Huff barely got minutes. Isaiah barely got minutes, which means it looks like they're going to be leaning heavily on Pascal Siakam to be playing center minutes. And it looks like they're going to be using some of these other players that we have coming up on the list, such as Benedict Mathurin, who had 36 points, 11 rebounds, barely any assists, but 19 attempts, got you 47% from field goal, made 15 of his 17 free throws. Incredible, 88.2%. So he met 5 of our benchmarks and hit 2 of our efficiency gates, which allowed him to be up here as a superstar engine. And the more you watch these videos, the more you'll understand this framework and how it applies to your team and your players. Ultimately, the more of these players you have on your team, the closer to the ideal benchmarks your team is going to be, the harder it is going to be to beat you in 5 categories on any given week. That's the general idea. It's crazy when this is mediocre game from Nikola Jokic, when he can get 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists, and that be an average game for him. He met 6 of the 10 benchmarks, hit 2 of our efficiency gates, got the 21 points, rebounds, and assists. He was above. He hit with the 3-pointers, and he hit with the steals and blocks, as well as the assist to turnover ratio. But he only made 8 of his 23 shots, and he only hit 3 of his 4 free throws, so he was below on efficiency. The steals and blocks were lower than we want for those, but the combined 2 does give him that benchmark for stocks. Jamal Murray also played 40 minutes, had 25 points, 10 assists, shot 55% from the field on 11 of 20 shots, an assist to turnover ratio of 3. Not a whole lot of stocks there, but the assist to turnover ratio, the score and the assist, very strong game from him. Superstar production, hit 5 benchmarks total. Now, Jimmy Butler is the last player we will be discussing as far as our superstar studs for last night. He hit 32 total points, rebounds, and assists, got you 3 steals, and he met 6 of the 10 benchmarks, 3 of the efficiency gates. Jimmy Butler has been off to a great start, and depending on your format, the Warriors have a very strong fantasy basketball playoff schedule. So I targeted Jimmy Butler in a few leagues because of that schedule. So if you have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler with those Warriors and that schedule, you might be sitting pretty. Again, they are both injury prone, though, so that's the gamble that you have to take. It's real early on in the season. No guarantee they are there when you need them. So some low ownership breakouts. If there's part of the video you really want to focus on, it's this one, because these are guys that are going to be readily available. The guys we discussed before, part of the gates that I put there is they have to be owned in 70% or more of leagues. That helps us remove players that aren't really superstars and maybe just had a great game. Now, these are low ownership breakouts. So these guys had incredible games, but are available in less than 70% of league. A lot of these guys are owned in way less than that. One of those is AJ Mitchell. He's an ad right now. Points, rebounds, and assists equaled out to 33. He met 4 of our 10 benchmarks and hit 3 of our efficiency gates. Widely available. Now, you do have to keep in mind, and it says it right here in the insights, that Cason Wallace not playing may have skewed the minutes. Not only that, the double overtime for 2 games now means a lot more minutes available than would traditionally be available. So I don't know how sustainable his production is if Jalen Williams is back. If Cason Wallace is back and they're not playing double overtime games, his minutes might drop to a point where it's not sustainable. So I wouldn't drop anyone too valuable, but if you're in a 14-team league or you just have a crappy end of your bench player on a 12-team league, give him a look to see if he can keep it going. I'm just not predicting that he will. Aaron Wiggins, same deal. Very strong game from him. Played 35 minutes, 23 points, 9 rebounds, field goal percentage 50% on 14 attempts, free throw percentage 100% on 4 attempts. So I'll help you out in multiple areas. But again, I don't trust the long-term sustainability on a very stacked OKC team that is missing some key pieces right now. I'll be topping another player on the Pacers. Played 39 minutes. Also, the double overtime is skewing those minutes, but they have no big men. So it's very nice to see him get this many minutes, and to me speaks to his potential long-term value. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, still heavily available on a lot of waiver wires. I would go see if he's available on your waiver wire. The field goal percentage was only 44% on 18 attempts. Normally, he's more efficient than that, but also he's never had the chance to get a lot of minutes and usage. So if his shot attempts go up, his field goal percentage might go down in general. But he got you the 2 steals, the free throw percentage 100%, the assist to turnover ratio at 3. Very productive game from him with a combined 28 points, rebounds, and assists, and meeting 3 of our 6 efficiency gates. Now, Jarris Walker is another deep league sleeper that you want to consider. Had 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, played 30 minutes coming off the bench, met 2 of our 6 efficiency gates. The 6 of 11 shots got you 54.5% from the field, and assist to turnover ratio of 2. Little things that add up. So the specialist, somebody asked about him, Ben Sheppard. Told you I had him in here, whoever asked. 15 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, met 5 of the 9 efficiency gates. So when you ask, absolutely we are targeting him, because one of the insights I have for you here is Andrew Nembhard left the second half of the game with a shoulder injury. I don't believe we know yet how serious it is. I know they said they're going to test it. I don't think we've heard anything. But either way, TJ McConnell's not there. You also have Tyrese Halliburton probably out the rest of the season because of the torn Achilles. So there's a lot of opportunity for Ben Sheppard here, and he played 39 minutes. Got you 5 of the 9 benchmarks, got you 27, and at 28, we start counting them as an engine. So very strong game from him. 5 of his 11 field goals, met with the free throw attempts, even though he only took 2, so he doesn't get that benchmark. But had he made 1 more free throw, he would have hit and had 6 of the 10 benchmarks. Steals and blocks at 2, so he got you a steal and a block. Very nice overall production. I picked him up in a deep league that has mostly diamond and platinum players. I picked him up last night in the middle of the game because in a deep league, I think he's going to have season-long value, so I scooped him up immediately, and I think I dropped Clint Capella. I was actually waiting to pick up Trey Jones off the wire because somebody dropped him in that one, but I actually gambled and thought if I don't get him off waivers, I think I might miss out on Ben Sheppard, and he might actually have more season-long value than Trey Jones. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So as far as Chet, 15 points, 12 rebounds, 7 of his 8 free throw attempts, so 87.5% from the field. The assist to turnover ratio is putrid. That I don't like, and he hasn't been blocking shots, but that's going to normalize. That's going to improve. He got you 29 combined points, rebounds, and assists, and did meet several of our efficiency gates. Now, the efficiency gates, I didn't actually apply that to specialists because I didn't want to vet out players that are essentially role players that you build around your engine. So I kept the efficiency gates for breakout players, and I kept the efficiency gate for superstar players. But for these specialists, these are the ones you're going to build around your engine players, the guys that are going to help you get steals, blocks, the glue guys that can really pad out those categories and get you as close as possible to that ideal that we're discussing. I hope you're liking this breakdown, man. I spent hours putting this together, and hopefully less hours as I go, because I'm trying to figure out the perfect formula to give you content constantly without spending too much more time than I need to, because unfortunately I'm a very busy guy. I manage a comedy club. I'm a career coach. There's a lot of different things going. But I do want to meet with more of you. I want to have more of these live streams and eventually help you more with your own fantasy basketball teams. I want you guys to become diamond tier players. Jonathan Kuminga played 36 minutes, 22 points, rebounds, and assists. He met 3 of the 9 benchmarks, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, field goal percentage, made 6 of his 11 shots, the assist to turnover ratio at 3. That's why he met those 3 benchmarks. So decent production for a guy that was widely available on waiver wires when the season started. There was a lot of question marks around his role, but he did get the start, and he got double-digit shot attempts for the 2nd game in a row. So it looks like his role may be secure, and Steve Kerr might finally ease up on him. So here are our sleeper players. These guys didn't get enough points, rebounds, and assists to qualify as specialists, but they still helped you with your benchmarks. Again, these are guys that you can find on your waiver wire. A lot of them are readily available, and you round out your roster with. So Al Horford got 28 minutes, met 4 of the 10 benchmarks. He hit 3 3-pointers and made 5 of his 8 field goal attempts. So he shot 62.5% from the field, and he got you 2 steals and blocks. Against Dort, 8 rebounds from a guard-eligible player, though the field goal percentage has been putrid so far this season. But he qualified because he got you a combined 17 points, rebounds, and assists, and the cutoff for sleepers is 15. Again, I'm trying to identify the best players, and I'm trying to throw a wide enough net so that we can find guys that can help you in deep league formats, but we could also find guys that can help you in shallower formats. Against Dort, I would keep him to one of those formats. So Jarris Walker, we actually talked about him already, but he would also qualify as a sleeper just because how available he is in the majority of leagues right now. All right, so that's the breakdown of my framework. If you want to pause it there and read how the framework works, there's still some kinks in the armor, and I'm still trying to iron it out and make it perfect. But again, the entire idea behind this was to help you conceptualize how to build the ideal team. No player will ever meet all of the benchmarks every night, but if you can get your team averages across all your players as close as possible to these benchmarks, that's when your team becomes difficult to beat, if not impossible, because most other people are not putting this much level of thought into their team building and their team construction. All right, why don't we wrap up this video with some waiver wire transaction trends while I have you here. So we're going to go to research again, transaction trends, diamond player trends, all players. And I recently uploaded a video on Believe in Fantasy because I'm part of that network. So my videos sometimes will go on Believe in Fantasy. So if you're here from Believe in Fantasy, hi, how's it going? But somebody made a comment that me talking about no one wants to hear about targeting players based on the ads that they have, which I think is asinine because volume to me, when you see a volume of pickups, especially in diamond tier leagues, you're talking about the 1 percentile on you. When I see them making moves, it lets me know, hey, I need to investigate further what's happening here because often it's going to be a guy got injured or a guy just had a breakout game and the role is sustainable. I feel like there's less noise and less variance. So the fact that Yahoo puts this behind the paywall, they won't show you the diamond player trends unless you buy Plus. So that's the value I'm trying to bring you. Even if you don't pay for Yahoo Plus, I want you to know what diamond tier players are doing because then you can make smarter roster decisions. Isaiah Stewart, we talked about him. Ryan Dunn, Ben Sheppard, Davion Mitchell was on our video a few days ago. I like his role a lot right now. He's a must pick up in 12-team leagues, at least until Tyler Hero comes back from his ankle surgery. Grayson Allen, there's a lot of question marks around that Suns team. I know Jalen Green did not play, so that opened up more minutes for him, but he's a guy that historically has gotten you threes, steals, could score, could be decently efficient. So he's only 18% rostered right now. So I'd say end of a 12-team league, probably more of a 14-team league for now, with the potential to jump up to 12-team value. Sean George, he's only 34% rostered, which is crazy considering the game he had the other day. He had 32 minutes, made 7 of his 15 shots, had 3 3-pointers, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, and he hit the assist to turnover metric at 2. It makes no sense for him to be that widely available. I know Bilal Coulibaly is injured right now, but even once he comes back, I can't imagine the Wizards not prioritizing the development of somebody like this. And the Wizards have an amazing playoff schedule, depending on what your fantasy basketball playoff schedule is. So a young player on a team that's likely to be bad at the end of the season means he's probably getting a lot of minutes during silly season, and silly season normally coincides with your fantasy basketball playoff schedule. I'm going to cover a few more, and then I'll open the floor for some sort of Q&A. So start asking your questions, and I'll do my best to wrap this video up addressing you guys. We have Aaron Gordon again getting a lot of pickups, only 47% rostered right now. Dylan Brooks, I probably won't be targeting him. Ronald Holland, only 11% rostered. That has climbed up since I made the video yesterday. Still think he's more of a deep league guy. Ryan Rollins, same thing. Herbert Jones, only 38% rostered. That's incredibly low. Let's look at the game he had. So I love Herbert Jones because he's one of those guys that can get me threes, can get me steals, and on occasion will get me blocks. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So he meets a lot of the criteria that I like. One of my biggest regrets so far this season is the fact that I grabbed Jay Huff over him in just one of my leagues. I grabbed him in a few others, but I got too enamored with the idea of Jay Huff replacing Miles Turner and suddenly getting you 2 threes and 2 blocks per game. I got a little too cute with that analysis, but Herbert Jones is off to a great start, especially if Eve Missy is to miss any time. But look at here. He got you 3 3-pointers, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, a block, took 14 shot attempts and played 36 minutes. He was injured a lot last season, so I think that made his value drop. But right now, he's one of the best 3-and-D guys that you can get on waiver wire. Honestly, in the entire league, he should be owned way more than Khris Middleton. He had a promising first game. Khris Middleton used to be on my Bucks winning championship, so I will always love him and be biased towards him. But on a Wizards team that's probably skewing young, and him being an aging veteran with a lot of health issues, he barely was picked up in drafts, but his ownership has climbed up. I believe I drafted him in one deeper league with my last pick, and he was only 10 or 11% rostered. He is now 24% rostered because he played 29 minutes, took 14 shot attempts, which is nice, hit 3 3-pointers, 23.6 rebounds, 3 assists, no steals, blocks, mediocre assist to turnover ratio, but still for a guy that's only 24% rostered, if he manages to stay healthy and manages to continue getting double-digit shot attempts, I think he is a huge sleeper for you right now. Jeremy Grant is somebody else I think has big sleeper value. Not only did he have a great first game, getting you 29 points, getting 4 3-pointers made, his ownership is only 25%. We've seen him be a 20-plus point per game scorer, but it seemed like last year the Blazers were punting, tanking the season. He didn't get enough minutes to be useful, but we don't know what's going to happen with Chauncey Billups. He was just arrested yesterday, we found out, along with Terry Rozier and some other people. I think Damon Jones. It's a crazy story. Look it up if you haven't heard about that. But if they end up with an interim coach, that interim coach is going to do his best to win games so that he doesn't lose the job. He wants to be successful in that probationary period. That means somebody like Jeremy Grant might have a secure role, more secure than he would have had with Chauncey Billups. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. If you think I'm reaching with that one, let me know in the comment. Trey Jones, I mentioned him earlier, played 32 minutes. Kobe White did not play that game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure he did not. So the 12 points, the 8 assists, the 4 assist to turnover ratio, the 3 steals, and the 62% from the field, that's like candy to my eyes. He's only 12% rostered. I'd say if it's your last roster spot in a 12-team league and he's on your waiver wire, I would strongly consider picking him up. In a 14-team league, he's for sure must own. But once Kobe White returns, will his minutes be impacted? Possibly. That's why it's hard to go off of these one-game sample sizes. We don't want to make drastic moves. And then a lot of the guys that we discussed, AJ Mitchell, we discussed Obi Toppin, VJ Edgecombe, we discussed them the other day. Now, somebody I haven't discussed yet, but I will discuss with you right now, is Ryan Kalkbrenner. It looks like he's secured the starting center role for the Hornets, and the Hornets seem keen on giving their young players minutes right now. So he played 27 minutes and ended up outproducing Diabati. So 10 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, made 5 of his 6 shot attempts. That's promising production for a first game. He's young, the minutes are there, and it looks like the team is prioritizing his development. That bodes really well for his long-term value. So if you're thin on centers and you want one with upside that has the chances of raising his trade value later on in the season, because if you pick correctly, this guy might end up being like a Walker Kessler for you that's worth nothing right now. But you have to gamble on this if you want to build a strong team, because sometimes people want to see the proof and see a guy perform 20 games before they take a chance. But if you wait too long, like with Dyson Daniels last year, you just missed the boat. So if you want to take a swing for the fences, I think Ryan might be one of the safer ones that you can take. Gary Trent Jr., a combination of things that I like. The Bucks gave him a contract. So anytime a team pays a guy, I view it as they want a return on their investment. And the best way to get their return on their investment is to give the guy minutes and production. He played 24 minutes. Kevin Porter Jr. also went down with an ankle injury, which might open up more minutes for him. I think he's missing 2 to 3 games is what I remember reading. Hopefully it's not more than that. Either way, even with Kevin Porter Jr. healthy, I think he complements him really well because Gary Trent Jr. doesn't need the ball in his hands. He's a spot-up shooter, and he's a good ball thief. You see last game, he got you 5 3-pointers, got you 2 steals, 2 assist-to-turnover ratio, took 12 shots and made 6 of them. So that is the sort of categories production that I really enjoy. 12% rostered only. He's ranked 59 right now, still very early in the season, still only a 1-game sample size. But a few years ago, this was a guy that you would have to draft in the top 50. Then he kind of fell off, but we might see a resurgence of Gary Trent Jr. He's also not a very old player, so we could still see some really good basketball production from him on your fantasy basketball team. Oh man, you got a lot of stuff. I've literally prompted all of your guys to ChatGPT and drafted with that system. Smart man, that's exactly what I want you guys to be doing. If you bought my draft guide, that is the perfect use of the draft guide. I actually might put together an in-season guide. I'm going to make a video soon, but I might create an in-season guide that structures how you need to be acting during the regular season, the framework, the mentality, the moves to make, the ones not to make, so that you can end up that diamond tier status, and then you'll be able to feed that guide to ChatGPT. I prefer Claude. Claude is what I like to use. Claude helps me make my artifacts. I can't code, but with Claude, I feel like a professional coder and allows me to make you some really nice backdrops with all of the information that I want to hone in on. But thank you for calling that out, because if you're not using ChatGPT, if you're not using AI to help you with your fantasy basketball team, I think you're screwing up. You need to start doing that right now. All right, so you gave me a lot of teams. Let's see. So you got Trae Young, Desmond Bane, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, Draymond Green, Jalen Suggs, Cam Thomas, Josh Hart, Onyeka Okongwu, Chris Paul, Miles Bridges, Obi Toppin, Ryan Kalkbrenner. See, I didn't even read that, and I just broke down why he's a good pickup. Bilal Coulibaly, I brought up. So the fact that half of those players you mentioned, I discussed in this video without even seeing your comment, lets me know that you drafted according to my system really well. How long is Garland out? I'm hearing that he's ahead of schedule. So my guess is if they're saying that, because NBA teams are a lot like companies on the stock market. They're really careful with their wording, especially you see here what's happening, for example, with Chauncey Billups and Jason Terry. There's fraud that can happen when people know about injuries to players or the information that's made public. So in a way, if you're aware of when a player's injured and the general public does not, there's a lot of room for fraud as far as gambling and things of that nature. Same thing with the stock market. If you make a public statement, that affects stock prices. So you have to be very accurate when you make certain public statements. So for the coaching staff to publicly say that he's ahead of schedule, to me indicates that he's not very far away, versus someone like Kyrie, when they talk about his long-term health, they'll tell you, hey, we're not rushing it. We don't really know. We're not saying he'll be back this season. So my guess is, just based on their wording saying he's ahead of schedule, we should have him back within a month. And that's a worst case scenario. I can't imagine it being longer than a month. Bub or Ben? Oh, that's a tough question. Right now, I'm leaning the safer pick, Ben, but I think Bub has higher upside. So it depends if you want a safer pickup versus more of a swing for the fences. I think Bub Carrington has a lot of upside as a scorer, as a volume assist guy. Reminds me kind of a Keyonte George on the Jazz. I think he has a similar profile, and Keyonte George looks like he's breaking out this season. I think with Bub, it might take him a few years to reach that point where he's 100% trustworthy in fantasy leagues. And I think he'll for sure make that. I just don't know if it's going to be this season. I find guards, especially undersized guards, seem to take that leap more around year 3 than in year 2. But again, I might be pulling that out my rear end. Anybody else? Make any comments you want. So we have a question. Where can I get the matchup browser wizard? So that is sportswizard.com. I also believe if you Google fantasy basketball wizard Chrome extension, you can get it that way as well. But the website is www.sportswzrd.com. And if you use my promo code BLH, I do believe you get 10% off. If you're in money leagues, I guess if you play in free leagues and you just want to make your life more difficult, I'm not going to tell you go buy this. But if you're in money leagues and you're investing money in the success of your team, it makes no sense to me to not make the investment in something like the fantasy basketball wizard that's literally built into the Yahoo UI and gives you so much more information to work with. Not only that, it has a feature, and I can show you that right here. I should push back, do a little plug. Let's go to my team again. I'm going to discuss my team, maximize this. So Yahoo, I recently learned, put the ability to set up your team for the week, is this assistant GM thing, behind the paywall. It used to be free, but the fantasy basketball wizard has that same feature. And I believe that's one of the free features for the fantasy basketball wizard. So there's a free version and there's a paid version. I believe the free version gives you this functionality right away. And it lets you select all leagues. It lets you select today or rest of the week. I'm always pressing that button because with all the pickups I make, I don't know if you're aware of this with Yahoo, but if you pick up a player, it resets your roster. So let's say I do this today. My roster set up for the remainder of the week. I think, cool, no worries. Then I see a guy go off later in tonight's games, and I'm like, I got to pick him up for my team, pick him up, and then I forget to set my roster again. What's going to happen the next day, my starters might end up on the bench because picking up a player resets everything. So this is a great feature, and almost anytime, sometimes 3 to 4 times a day, I'll just go here. It costs me nothing. It only takes a second just to make sure that I'm not leaving any production on the bench, because leaving production on the bench, especially in competitive leagues, is something that gives me anxiety. It makes me sad. It ruins my day, and I don't want my day ruined. So that's another great feature of the fantasy basketball wizard. Let me see if I can find you the exact link. Let's do a Google search. Fantasy basketball wizard. All right. So this is the extension. So that's the best way to find it. You can download it. You see I have it here. And then the Sports Wizard website is right here. And one of the great features I love from the Sports Wizard website, and it actually populates right here, is the Wizard Daily Summary. This is actually what I use to analyze the data and come up with the players that I'm going to share with you. I don't have all the answers, just some of them, but the ones I have, I think can be very helpful to you and your team. So again, it's been a long plug for the Fantasy Basketball Wizard, but if you do not have that extension, you are truly missing out. All right, so the people have said they want more live streams, and the people will get what the people want. At the very least, Sundays I plan on live streaming, but maybe I'll continue doing these Friday live streams, maybe more throughout the week, because editing videos takes way too much time. And we had a very decent turnout. I think we had 20 plus people, which is the sort of turnout that makes me motivated to keep creating this content. So if you stayed this long with me, thank you. Truly value and cherish you. Last thing I want to promote, I do want to do some more subscriber leagues, maybe some paid subscriber leagues. So if you're interested in joining a subscriber league, I'm gathering information right now. You can send me an email to the Barack Lesnar at gmail.com. That's the Barack Lesnar at gmail.com. Just send me your name and your interest in joining a $100 money league. I administer everything via LeagueSafe, and I'll set up a draft, maybe not for this weekend, but for the following weekend if I can get enough interest. I already have several people that have shown interest in joining a subscriber league draft. I have people that I've done draft with for years, and there's been zero complaints because I take being a commission very seriously. I play my leagues very straight. So what happens is every year I have a lot of very competitive players that hit me up and start saying, hey, Barack, are you setting up more leagues? And then I'm forced to set up leagues because people love the leagues that I create. So if you would like to play in one of my leagues, send me that email, the Barack Lesnar at gmail.com. You have to be able to pay $100 by next week. You have to be competitive, you have to be active, and you have to be able to join LeagueSafe to pay your dues before the draft. Again, if I get enough interest, I will create maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 subscriber leagues now that my channel seems to be growing more. But again, smash that button, click that bell notification to be alerted when these videos drop, and keep an eye out for a video I will be dropping either Saturday or Sunday where I'm going to break down the season into parts, right? So this is the early season. So the way you act right now is very different than the way you're going to be acting week 15 and 16. So we're going to break down the different parts of the season. I'm going to make an early season video of things not to do and how to ensure that you have a ton of success. That's going to be probably one of the best videos I've ever dropped, because the insight, it's going to be like, whoa, I knew that, but I never had anyone put it in those terms or in those words. And you might realize some of the mistakes you're making that are leading to you not having the success you could be having if you just made better decisions. A lot of fantasy basketball is not so much about making the right decisions. It's about not making the wrong ones, which ties back to my framework in general. All right. I'm tired of talking. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this is Barack Lesnar Hoops. Take care.